Good morning. You know, it's kind of an interesting thing. Not what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about the joy of the Lord, but I guess this is kind of a joyful thing, just making observations. Ministers are supposed to be referred to by this adjective, reverend, the Reverend so-and-so. And certain people in positions of political authority are supposed to be referred to as honorable, the honorable so-and-so. You know, it's okay with me if you call me Stephen. Yeah. So anyway, and I probably shouldn't do this because I tell too many stories, but you're stuck with me this morning, so here it is. I found out that Reverend Wanda was studied with an institute that was started by someone that we knew and worked with, whose name was Rabbi Joseph Gelberman, and is an amazing guy. So I'm going to tell you a Rabbi Gelberman story this morning that you probably not heard. Maybe you have, but anyway. So Rabbi Gelberman told this story, and he had these brilliantly bright, sparkly blue eyes, which ties in with joy because he was one of the more joyful people that I've met. Not that he had an always joyful life, he didn't, but he was a joyful soul. And I think that's part of the distinction, and the joy of the Lord is your strength, which is a quote from Nehemiah. I think that's part of the idea is our joy doesn't come from our circumstances. But anyway, the Rabbi Gelberman story, he was going to be performing a wedding. This was when he was younger. And it turns out that the bride was Christian. Her whole family was Christian, rather fundamentalist Christian. And the groom was Jewish. Now, the bride and groom didn't have any trouble with that, but the families had a lot of trouble with it. And so they were going to get married, and they decided they were going to honor both traditions, and they wanted both traditions represented in their marriage ceremony. So they asked the minister of the Christian family if he would do it, and asked the rabbi of the Jewish family to do it, who was Rabbi Gelberman. And so they were preparing to do it, and Rabbi said that he was getting prepared for the service, and the young man came into his office and said, "Hi, I'm so-and-so, and I'm with the bride's family, and the father of the bride sent me here on a mission to ask you something." And Rabbi said, "Oh, what is it?" And he said, "Well, he knows that you're Jewish, and you know the young man's Jewish, and we understand that, but he just wants to make sure you don't use a lot of that Hebrew stuff in the wedding." So would that be okay? Can I go back and tell him that that's okay? And Rabbi Gelberman said, "I told the young man, I am so sorry, but I'm going to have to use a great deal of Hebrew in the wedding ceremony because I want to make sure Jesus understands what we're saying." True. That's supposedly a true story. So anyway, this quote again, the title, "The joy of the Lord is my strength," comes from the prophet Nehemiah, and it's in chapter 8. Nehemiah is somebody that Unity has a lot to do with because they have whole things called Nehemiah retreats at the village, which is basically service-oriented because Nehemiah was a prophet who had them rebuild part of the wall. And everybody contributed. They didn't think they could get it done, but everybody did their little piece, and it got done, which is part of the message of how things work. You may or may not know this because Fillmores have a lot of material, but Charles Fillmore wrote a book called Jesus Christ Heals. And in Jesus Christ Heals, the entire chapter 11 is about the joy of the Lord. So which is a wonderful chapter. If you've never read the book or that chapter in particular, I really recommend that. But he thought it was very important. And something else that ties into that is it was very important in the ministry of Jesus too, who I refer to, as you mostly know, by his Hebrew name, Yeshua. Probably because Rabbi Gelberman's whispering in my ear saying, his name was Yeshua. But anyway, toward the end of his physical life, which is the 17th chapter of the Gospel of John, is the very last part of Jesus' physical life, almost, right before his arrest and crucifixion. It's one of the last and longest dialogues he has with God and with his disciples before the arrest and crucifixion and so on. And in John 17, one of the things Yeshua says is this: I'm speaking all these things in the world so that they may have the joy that is in me in themselves. So now he's talking about his whole ministry and why he's done what he's done, so that they may have the joy that's in me in themselves, and that joy may be full. So now he's talking about sharing this joy that he knows with the world through his disciples, and that can live in him. In the same section of John 17, he then goes on to say, may they be one, Father, as we are one. That's one of the quotes that you hear a lot in churches is, my Father and I are one. And they always, in traditional churches, tend to bring that across with the emphasis that only applied to Jesus. But that's not what Jesus said. That they may be one as we are one. With me in them and you in me, may they be perfected in unity, so that they may know you love them just as you love me. So that's the point of the work, is that we come to know that love, and knowing that love is the joy of the Lord. And that's where our strength comes from, because if we don't know that, then we have adversities in life, and the adversities, part of the idea of adversity means it's adverse to what we want. Otherwise, it wouldn't be adversity for us. You know, if I have something that happens to me and it doesn't bother me, it's not adversity. That same thing may bother you tremendously and be adversity for you, but not me, or vice versa. You may have something, this happened, and I got stuck at every red light, and I got there a half an hour late, and it was cool. And I'd be like frantic because I'm like running, I don't like running late. So, that would be like a big deal to me. That'd be an adverse thing. So it depends on what we want and how in keeping our life circumstances are with what we want. When I go to a medical doctor, which I just recently did, and I get a test result that is what I want, that's good. Life is now good, and I'm very grateful and joyful. If I get a result I don't want, then that's adversity to me, and I don't like it. And what tends to happen is I lose touch with that joy. And I instead move from that into fear. Or into, why me? I'm the good guy here, God. I'm doing what you ask. I'm Stephen. You're supposed to take care of me, right? Look out for me. I'm not supposed to have things happen to me. So, this idea of joy is that joy is not the gift of our circumstances. Joy is the gift of spirit from God. And it's independent of our circumstances. You can be joyful in difficult circumstances, or you can be miserable in good ones. I know plenty of people in the course of my life that everything was going along fine and they were still miserable. Do you know why? Because they kept worrying, when is it not going to be okay? When is something bad going to happen? When am I going to lose my money? When is my relationship going to go bad? When is my health going to go bad? Am I going to have enough money for my retirement? And everything was actually fine. My friend Michael says to me that most of the time things are actually fine. I mean, look around. You're sitting here. You're not hooked up to tubes and machines to keep you breathing. You walked in, you can walk out. You have people you care about. They have people that care about you. Things are actually fine. But so often, we don't allow ourselves to experience the joy of God in our life because we have a stronger attachment to getting things the way we want than we do to our love for God. And so, in God's graciousness, he gives us what we want most, which is our anxiety. Well, welcome to my world. That's... Whenever I have this anxiety, it's not like God said, I don't know, I just didn't like you today, Stephen, so push through it, It's like I've created it. That wasn't a gift that was given to me. I created that. The gift that was given to me was, as Susan just said up here a moment ago, peace. I have peace in my soul. I have joy in my soul, and I have love in my soul. Those are all there. I didn't create one of them, not one. They're all there. They're inherent. Do you know what God never says in the Bible? You can read the whole creation story all the way through the end of Revelation. And what God never says is, I said, let there be darkness and misery. Those words never come out of God's mouth. And yet, we don't only experience light and joy. So, what's going on? And I don't have the cosmic answers to those things. Those are for greater teachers than me. But I do know that one of the things that gets in the way of our joy is our ego. Because joy is actually simple. It's a spirit. It's an energy of God. It's an aspect of God that we can be in touch with or not. Now, the part about joy being our strength is when we're in touch with it, it enables us to have strength to deal with adversity without being crushed by it or oppressed by it. So, I'm going to tell you two more stories. This is my story morning, apparently. So, many, many years ago, we were doing a retreat, actually, in Michigan. We were gone for the whole weekend. And we had our daughter, who was living in town at the time, stop in, check on the dog, and so forth. Well, while they were there, one of her sons used the upstairs toilet and flushed it. And the float in the clean water tank didn't work. So you know what happened? It just filled all weekend, which meant it went everywhere, ruined the whole downstairs ceiling, the whole downstairs walls, the whole kitchen, all the cabinets, ruined. So we got a call from our daughter when she went back to the house and discovered that our ceiling was raining downstairs. And we're at a dinner at this spiritual conference where I'm supposed to be inspiring and holy and reverend and peaceful. And I didn't feel any of those things when I'm getting the news on the phone. Hey, your whole bottom of your house is destroyed. Welcome home. And so everybody's like, what's going on? So I tell my wife, who's sitting right next to me, there's a clean water flood in our house that's ruined the whole kitchen. And she went, good, I've been wanting a new kitchen. I'm thinking, how are we going to pay for this? Oh my God, this is going to be... You get the point? Two different reactions, same situation. Yeah. So I decided I was going to talk about joy this morning. So yesterday we had another flood in our house. Ruined 2 more rooms. Different problem. I was being healthy by putting an under-counter water filter system in my house so that I drank healthy water. And the water I drank was healthy. But the water that wasn't ran out of the bottom of the filter and ruined another set of cabinets in a room next door. So, and my wife said, good, we need a new carpet in there. I said, could you please stop being so cheerful? So I'm making jokes about it because I'm not happy with this. I don't like it. But I don't. Yeah, I don't. I like things calm. I don't like unexpected expenses. I like things smooth. And consequently, I have a lot of adversity in my life because that doesn't seem to be the way it always goes. So So I'll tell you one last story, and then we'll wrap up with a little bit more seriously about connecting to that joy. I have rarely told this story in public. My wife will probably, I'll probably hear about telling this later, but and I'll be more joyful. But yes, it's not about you. It's okay. Yeah. When I was single, many years ago, when I was single, and doing a lot of teaching, I was invited to this interfaith conference in Michigan, and some of you will or may not remember, but in this area in the Midwest, way before yoga was popular, way before vegetarianism was popular or heard of, way before meditation was a common word in the Midwest, there was a woman in Ohio, in Cincinnati, named Lilius, and she had a program on PBS TV called Lilius Yoga and You. And she did a weekly yoga program, which was great. I ended up corresponding with her. Back in those days, there was no internet and no cell phone. So we were physically writing letters, and we were corresponding. And it turns out she was going to be teaching at this same interfaith conference I was. And so I said, oh, maybe we could meet and have lunch and get to know each other. She said, that's great. Now, I'm a single young guy, and she's kind of cute, and I'm thinking, hey, this is nice, you know. So I want to make a good impression, and about how holy I am, and how wise I am, especially how wise I am. What? The Reverend Stephen, yes, right. And hoping to be a little irreverent, maybe it's, you know, but well, truthfully, yeah. So I was a young guy. What can I say? So I go to the conference and I'm teaching, and she's teaching in another part of the campus. It's on a college campus, and I get down a little early, and outside where I am, there's a courtyard, an open courtyard with a short, kind of narrow brick wall that runs around the courtyard. And so I think I'll just sit out here. It's a sunny, nice day. I'll sit out here and wait for her until she gets done, and we'll connect and we'll go have lunch. So I'm looking, I think this is really nice, and maybe I'll just meditate here for a little bit. So I hop up on the brick wall, and I realize that I'm sitting in something. And it turns out there's a pie tin, like one of those little aluminum pie tins, and it's full of milk. And I've just sat in it. And a college student there who was not part of the conference came over to me and said, oh, you just sat in the milk. I said, yeah, I am. And she said, there's a stray cat here, and she loves milk and peanut butter. So every morning on the wall, we put out a little pan of milk, and then we also put out a little pie tin of peanut butter. And I said, oh, that's great. So it's like 100 degrees outside. And in those days, I had one of those long African shirts. I don't know what they're called, those colorful ones, and that goes way down. And so my shirt and my pants are soaked with milk, and it's like 100 degrees outside. And I think, this is going to smell. And I only have like 5 minutes. So I find a water fountain, and I have my rear end in the water fountain. And I'm trying to wash the milk off, and then hope that the sun dries it before this woman I'm trying to impress with how holy I am comes, and how aware, I'm a very aware person. And so I managed to do that, and it seems to be drying off pretty well. And pretty soon, sure enough, here she comes. Lilius comes across the courtyard, and it's like, oh, good. So I, keep facing her, I say, hey, it's nice to meet you. It's great. She said, oh, that's lovely, and it's so nice to meet. And I said, well, should we go to the cafeteria and have lunch? And she said, I've been teaching in the morning, all morning. I've been inside. Such a nice day. Could we just sit outside in the sun for a little bit and then go to the cafeteria? And I said, sure. So she starts to hop up on the wall near the milk pan, most of which is already in my shirt. And I say to her, wait, don't sit there. There's a little pan of milk up on top of that wall for the cat. She says, oh, okay. So she goes over next to it. So I go over next to it, hop up and sit on the wall in the pan of peanut butter. Now I'm thinking to myself, what's the protocol for sitting in a pan of peanut butter when you just met a young woman you're trying to impress? Do I say, oh, I appear to be sitting in a pan of peanut butter? Or do I pretend nothing happened and hope she doesn't notice? So I'm running through scenarios in my head when she leans over to me and she says, "Do you know you're sitting in peanut butter?" I said, yes, I do. She said, "Okay." So we never dated, and I never heard from her again. But, no, actually, we never did date because it turns out she was married. But we did correspond, and she thought that was pretty funny, and I was mortified. So one of the
One of my favorite stories.
one of the things that I've discovered for me, because God works with us all differently, but one of the things I've discovered for me is that whenever I am unable to maintain a state of humility and get my ego too involved, then God teaches me humility, and almost always through humiliation. That's just me, but it worked. I mean, it's very hard to be proud with a butt full of peanut butter. So here's my point. Joy is connecting to the Spirit of God, and there are primarily two things, in my experience, that prevent us from consciously connecting to that Spirit of God, which is our source of joy and source of peace. And number one is fear. We've talked about that before. And number two is ego, which is what I'm talking about right now. That will get in our way as often as we'll let it. Because the ego part of us wants to control. It wants to be God. It wants us to worship it. And it's a false God. And it doesn't know what it thinks it knows. And it can't do what it thinks it can do. And ego has two sides. The one side is the proud, I can do anything and look at me. And the other side is, I'm so pitiful and inferior and terrible. Don't you feel sorry for me? You should take care of me because I'm so awful and everything's so bad. And they're the same voice. So feeling like, poor you, you're always a victim and everybody else is to blame, whether you know it or not, is ego. And I'm so great and I'm more important than everybody else and I'm the only one that matters, is the same voice. Just the other side of it. And both of those voices will prevent you from experiencing joy, because what you're going to feel like is you have to be in control all the time and make it work the way you want, or you won't be safe, which is where the fear part comes in, and you won't be loved, because the ego part also has a fear component, which is, if people really knew me, they would reject me. If they really knew how inferior I was and how flawed I am, and how un-okay I am, they wouldn't love me. So I'm going to pretend to be all the things that I know I'm not, so that I look confident, so that I look capable, so that I look self-assured, so that I look like I don't need them, so that I look like I'm the one in charge, I'm the one serving, I'm the one that's helpful, I'm the one that's wise. And then they'll like me. But I can't ever let them see beneath that, or they'll see how fragile I am, and they won't like me. And that is not a joyful way to live. So, when we don't have enough joy in our life, my recommendation is two things. One, take a look at, are you paying more attention to your fear or ego than you are to God in your life? Because chances are the answer to at least one of those is yes. And the other thing is, are you doing the things that you know connect you to that living Spirit of God within you? Are you doing the meditation and silence work? Are you doing the study? Are you connecting with people who are connected? Because in the East it said, we become the color that we dye ourselves in. So if you surround yourself with negative, doubtful, despairing, sad people all the time, do you know what will begin to happen to your consciousness? And if you surround yourself with people who love God, trust God, turn toward God, seek God, even in their troubles, that they find that strength even in the midst of their adversity, and you surround yourself with them, do you know what will begin to happen to your consciousness? It really works. There's no complex mechanism involved in this. We become like that which we continually hold in our consciousness. It transforms our brain physiologically. It transforms our body physiologically, for good or ill. It transforms our relationships, our economy, our health, everything. What we hold in our consciousness is what we experience. Because the truth is, while we talk about a lot of things, we don't experience life as it is. We experience what we allow ourselves to perceive of life. And we can't perceive what we won't be willing to see. Or as Henry David Thoreau once said, only that day dawns to which we're awake. So if we want this joy, we have to start looking for the source of that. And you can look outside you as long as you want, because I've done it an awful lot. And I don't just mean in terms of like wealth or power or money or that kind of thing. I tried that too. But I've just looked like somebody else make me happy. Somebody else bring me joy. Unity, it's your job. Fix me, make me happy. It's not Unity's job to do that. The only way you're going to find joy is to find the source of that joy. And that's in you. That's the real you. That's the divine in you. Whether you call it the inner light or the inner Christ or whatever you call it. When we find that, then we are no longer slaves to the lies that darkness tells us. But until we find it, we are. And any enslavement is not a life of joy. So we need to free ourselves from all those things that get in the way and begin to really see the light of God and the love of God. And if it's difficult for you to see, then just start doing it. Start being in the light. Start being the love. Sometimes I've had people, and sometimes I've said it to myself, how come I'm in this place where there's no light and love and everything is so hard? You know the answer to that? Because you were sent to bring it. So I'd like to do a little song and then we'll do a meditation. So this is just a simple little tune, and you're welcome to hum along, sing along. It has a really difficult chorus. The words are "oh." Oops, sorry, I got to turn this on. Hold on. Technology, right? All right, hold on a second. Here we go. When I see your light, or hear your voice, when I feel your love, I am filled with joy. Here comes, oh, 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 I am filled with joy. When I am your light, or am your voice, when I am your touch, all I feel is love. Oh, 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 all I feel is love. When I see your light, or hear your voice, when I feel your touch, I am filled with joy. When your light, pour your joy. When we share your touch, all there is, all we feel, all we are is love. So let's just close our eyes for a moment. And we reflect for a moment on the words of Nehemiah in chapter 8, when the prophet said to the people, "Go, celebrate, eat festival foods, drink sweet drinks, and be sure to share portions with the one who has nothing. And thus you will know that this day is holy to the Lord. Do not be grieved. The joy of the Lord, now and always, is your strength." So in this moment, in this church, in this chair, right now, not yesterday, not tomorrow, right now, the joy of the Lord is present in your heart and soul. You have the ability to hide from it, the ability to cover it up, the ability to deny it, but it is right there. It is so present, it is invisible, like breath, omnipresent, every instant of your physical life, always with you, and yet so obvious and so essential, you don't notice it. The joy of the Lord is present in your heart and in mine and in the person in front of you and behind you and to the left of you and to the right of you. Whether they know it, whether you know it, it's right there. To receive it as little children means to not think you have to deserve it, not think you're unworthy to receive it, not doubt whether it's for your good, but like a child at Christmas, open the gift with open arms and smiling eyes and a delight to see what's next. I have come that they might have life and have it more abundantly. This joy has been freely given. It is the knowing that you are divine and that your life and well-being rests in the hands of the divine every moment, despite any appearances to the contrary. And if nothing else, take joy in this. You are loved. And if there are too few places in your life where you feel it, at least feel it here. And then when you go forward into the world, share it with everyone you meet, because there are many who do not know it. Let's just take in that joy for a moment, the joy of this season, the joy of this moment, the joy of being a living soul in the being of the divine. As Jesus said, may the joy that is in me be in them and be made full. We thank you, Father, for this gift and opportunity. May we use it to your glory. Amen. Thank you all very much.